Hey there, my friends, and welcome back to the Renewed Mind podcast. I am your host, Ashley Varner, and in today's episode, we're going to be diving into a really powerful lesson from the life of Esther. It's one that really challenges how we view influence and impact and the legacy that we leave behind. We live in a world that's obsessed with recognition, social media, status, celebrity, and the constant pressure to be seen can make us feel like our worth is tied to how many followers that we reach. But is that what true influence looks like? Esther's story really offers us a different perspective, one that shifts our focus from fleeting fame and the trends that come and go, and it shifts us over to the idea of lasting impact and what true influence really is about. So I want to talk to you about that today. I wanted to mention that I go deeper into this topic in my new book. It's called The Ultimate Influencer, Lessons from Queen Esther, and it is going to be out on March 15th. So if you want to check it out, go ahead and go to ashleyvarner.com/Esther. If you get there before March 15th, you'll be able to get on the wait list. You'll be able to see some sneak peeks behind the scenes of the book. Also, you will get some pre-sale discounts. If you are listening to this after March 15th and you go to that link, it'll actually take you where you can purchase the book. It's going to be in paperback form, ebook form, and also for the first time, I have narrated one of my books, so you'll be able to get the audio version of me reading it. So make sure that you check that out if this is something that really interests you. The first thing I want to talk to you about in this episode is that influence isn't about visibility, it's about purpose. When we look at Queen Esther's life, we understand that she wasn't seeking influence. She didn't campaign for a platform. In fact, when she was chosen as queen, she didn't even reveal her identity as a Jew. She wasn't looking for that position with the plans of saving her people. But when the moment did come for her to step into her God-given purpose, she was ready. How different is that from today's culture? We often believe that the more visible we are, the greater our influence. The more people that I reach, the bigger church that I have, or the bigger ministry that I have, or even the bigger sphere of influence in my circle of friends is what makes me have more influence. But Esther really reminds us that true influence isn't about being seen as much as it is about being faithful. So I want you to pause for a second and think about this idea and maybe ask this question of yourself. Are you more concerned with being noticed or being faithful in the season that you're in right now? Now, this isn't some kind of condemnation on you or me judging you by any means. It's really just a hard look at our hearts, because I think that we all get into that place, whether or not you have a social media account or you're an influencer or whatever. You could be just a regular person, and we can get caught up with being noticed over being faithful. If you sing on your church's choir, or you serve in the nursery at church, or you have a small group that comes over to your house for Bible study, all of these little things, the enemy can be really quick to just convince us that we need to be noticed or we need to be recognized or appreciated, when really God is just calling us to be faithful. When I think of big influences in my life, women who have influenced me, pastors who have influenced me, it wasn't so much that they had all of the big names or the fancy titles behind their names or all those things, but it was about the ones who were there. The ones who were faithful, the ones who were committed to praying for me and mentoring me on a regular basis. The second thing that I want to bring up about influence is that it requires both boldness and obedience. When Esther learned about Haman's plot to destroy her people, she really did have a choice. She could stay silent and protect herself, or she could risk everything for a greater purpose. And she made the decision to choose courage. I want you to notice, though, that her courage wasn't reckless. She fasted, she prayed, she sought wisdom before she acted. She had her community around her, supporting her and lifting her up. She paused and made sure that she was prepared for what God was calling her to do. If you contrast that to today's influencer culture, it seems like this idea of influencer culture and being, going viral online and just being seen and followed and having all this online attention, this culture often rewards impulsiveness. It's kind of that post now, react quickly, say whatever gets the most engagement, follow the trends, all of those kind of things. Make sure that you're using trendy audio and do this kind of reel and post on here and this kind of dance and all these different quick post type of say whatever you can get attention for. But true influence isn't about reacting to trends. It's not about posting to get engagement. It's about responding in obedience to God. And I think that this is something that our culture really shows us and is kind of like a red flag for us to say, if I am valuing someone online who is just following trends over godly women in my life, godly mentors in my local church or that I follow online or things like that, we really need to make sure that we are following after God's view of what influence is and God's view of what purpose is. Remember that at the end of the day, God has called you to do things for Him, for His glory, for His kingdom. And if we fall prey to the way that the world operates and the way that the world looks at power and fame and what the world sees as influence, we're going to be really disappointed because we're falling for something that's counterfeit instead of something that's real. So I guess I want to encourage you, if you are finding yourself constantly acting out of a fear of missing out, instead, I want you to be intentional about waiting on God's direction before stepping forward. The last thing that I want to share is that true influence will leave a legacy. It won't just be a viral moment. Perhaps the biggest difference between biblical influence and today's social influence is longevity. Social media trends come and go. Viral moments are forgotten literally in days when the next viral moment happens. But Esther's obedience led to a decree that saved an entire generation of Jews. Thousands of years later, we still tell her story. So I guess I want to end this with asking, what about you? Are you spending your time chasing likes, or are you investing in what is going to last far beyond this life? Are we pouring into our families? Are we pouring into our communities and to the people that God has placed in our lives? Or are we settling for this very fake version of influence? What kind of legacy are you building with your words, your actions, and the influence that God has put in your life? Because truly, God puts influence in all of our lives. You don't have to have tons of followers on TikTok or be famous on Instagram or whatever it is in order to have influence. God has placed you in an arena of influence. That could be your coworkers, that could be your family, it could be your extended family or your church family. It could be a group of friends that are around you that you have the opportunity and the privilege to influence for God's glory. And that's going to be where you shine brightest for God's glory. If today's episode challenged you, I want to encourage you, don't measure your influence by numbers. Measure it by obedience. Maybe God is calling you to a quiet act of faithfulness that no one else is going to see. I want you to trust that He is writing a bigger story than what is visible today. Before you go, I'd love for you to share this episode with a friend who might need encouragement. And if you haven't already, make sure to go to ashleyvarner.com/Esther. This has been such a joy to write The Ultimate Influencer, where I go deep into these themes, and I know that it's going to bless you. If you are someone who struggles with identity and purpose and true community, then this book is definitely going to be something that you'll want to pick up. So until next time, remember, true influence isn't about being seen. It's about being faithful. All right, I will leave you with that, and I will see you next time.